Welcome to Blind Level Tech. I'm Jonathan Price.
I'm Evan Starnes.
And together, we're bringing you news, tech, and information about blind technologies.
Being blind doesn't mean you have to stop living.
We're going to show you just how possible it is to live the life you want. Hello and welcome to Blind Level Tech. My name is Jonathan Price, and this is
your on-caffeinated co-host, Evan Starnes, which is a twist.
Yeah, and I'm caffeinated. I've had a very technically frustrating day, so you may get some snark out of me today, and it's going to be fun. We have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and we're going to hit some accessibility features in Apple iOS. But first, Evan, tell me about your week. How was your week? You went to you had spring break. You were in Phoenix.
I was in Tucson, Arizona, but I did go to Phoenix.
Tucson, sorry.
Yeah, so it was awesome. Yeah. So me and a good buddy from high school went last week. We left Sunday. We went, we drove not straight to Arizona, but we drove to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and then to Arizona. And it was great. We got to listen to a whole bunch of CDs. Now there's a throwback, I know.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. They don't get old. And yeah, we got into Tucson, Arizona, where we stayed for a few days, and it was awesome. There was a whole bunch of if you're not used to seeing cacti, you better get used to it because they are everywhere, as are palm trees.
Right. Yes. Yep.
And
did you eat any cactus?
No, but I did get my girlfriend some prickly pear black tea, which.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Yeah, but I didn't eat any.
That's pretty good.
But okay. There's also blooms that smelled really good. I think they kind of had like a sweet, almost if anybody smelled bay leaf.
Oh, yeah.
And we did go to Phoenix though, and we got to go to the Musical Instrument Museum, which was awesome. And I got to see a real theremin, like not a replica, but an actual working one. And they had this whole room of instruments that you could just play, like harps and a couple of guitars on the wall, and no drum set, unfortunately. I would have loved to make some noise, but...
Oh, interesting.
And we also got to see a thing called an orchestrion, which is a autonomous orchestra.
Oh, so cool.
Oh, they're bloody cool. And they had a gift shop that I had to get dragged. Well, not literally, but I probably would have had to get dragged out of there. But, they were closing in a couple minutes. And a whole exhibit hall where you basically got to wear this wireless headset and you'd walk around by TVs and it'd play little clips of audio. And it was so bloody. It was cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then,
wow.
But yeah. And then botanical gardens we went to, and some national parks, did some hiking. So it was a great time.
It sounded like the instrument museum was quite accessible.
It actually was very accessible. I mean, yes, a lot of the stuff was behind glass cases, but they did let you hear it. And honestly, like a lot of the stuff that was behind the case was still in that interactive exhibit room where you could go play them. So honestly, it was a very good and inclusive experience. And they had like an elevator if you're in a wheelchair. They served really good food. They have a musical instrument museum like cafe, and yeah, they have like sandwiches and all sorts of stuff.
Nice. Yeah. My week was pretty good. Didn't really do anything. The kids were finally back in school, although it was interesting that on Monday and Tuesday of last week, they didn't, or I guess 2 weeks ago, by the time of this recording, they didn't have school on Monday or Tuesday, right after spring break. So I was a little confused as to why that was. So it was good, but it was nice to have them back in school, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with them over this summer. So we're looking at camps and soccer and t-ball and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be a entertaining summer and a busy one at that, but I'm thoroughly going to be enjoying summer and fire pits and barbecues. And now that the weather's getting nice and all that kind of stuff, I'm looking forward to nicer weather and
me too.
Breaking out the grill even more than I already am.
Yeah, I got a hammock,
and so there you go.
Yeah,
nice. We've got a nice big fire pit in the backyard. So I love doing a fire pit with some whiskey and
steaks.
Just enjoying outside. Dude, yep, absolutely.
That's the way to do it.
Takes all day long. All day long. Well, for those of you who are new to Blind Level Tech, thank you so much for joining us, and go back to listen to some of our other episodes where we compare Apple iPhones to Android and Galaxy and all these other types of phones. We compare PC to Mac, and today we are going to get into some of the accessibility features in Apple iOS. And so one of the things we want to make sure that we're doing is we are walking you through step-by-step instructions on how to change things in your phone, in your computers, in certain applications to make your life just a little bit easier. So with that being said, I am going to tell you this is specifically to Apple iOS, and the version that I think we're going to be running on, and this is, if I look at my about, the iOS version is 16.3.1. So if there is an update, okay, so I am operating on 16.3.1. So there's a little bit of discrepancy. So just take that into account. If you're listening to this in the future, this may be outdated information, but some of this information will still be relevant to what you need. So the first thing that we're going to do before I hand it off to Evan is you're going to go into your settings, into your in your Apple iOS, and then about halfway down, you're going to see, or you're going to hear the accessibility option. And once you click on that, you're going to have 4 categories. And these 4 categories are vision, physical and motor, hearing, and general. So we're going to start with vision, and we're going to get through as many of these as we can in this half-hour episode. Yep. We may turn this into 2 or 3 episodes, but we'll see how it goes. So when we start off with vision, Evan, tell us about some of the vision apps or some of the vision settings that is critical to make sure you get your iPhone up and running.
The most critical is VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on button,
which is what you're hearing right now. It's the screen reader that makes it possible, if you're totally blind, to use the iPhone 100% of the time. It adds image recognition and text recognition, and it makes 100% of the stock stuff on the iPhone accessible. And so that is the most critical. And when you go into that, when you actually tap VoiceOver, you can turn it on and off. You can view some information about it, adjust your speech settings, and customize all sorts of other settings related to VoiceOver.
Yeah. And so it's important to know that once you turn on voice for the first time, you may be a little jarred if you have the speech too fast. Now, once you get used to it, you can kind of turn up the speed, because you're going to be sitting there for a few seconds to let it speak through everything that it's trying to look at. If it's trying to open an image, if you're trying to get onto Safari, or you're trying to open FaceTime or Messages or whatever, it's going to read that a little slower than it normally would. So just play around with that, see whatever feels comfortable. And then if you're like Evan, you have it turned all the way up all the time, and it's like, I was like, I can talk kind of fast, but that is just ridiculous.
My buddy says it sounds like an auctioneer.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That is exactly what it sounds like.
Right now I've slowed it down. So for me, it's like, oof. Right now I've slowed it down. So for me, it's like painfully slow.
Accessibility, heading, vision, heading, VoiceOver on button.
But like for some other people, that might be what you're used to. And now that's not the default voice. That is the Alex voice, which you can download. Also,
nice.
Stock VoiceOver will give you hints, and basically what that is after a few seconds pause when you're on an item, it will tell you what you can do with it. Usually, if you're on an app, it'll say double tap to open or swipe up with 3 fingers. It'll tell you how to use that function.
So next up in Vision is the Zoom app. Evan, tell us some about the Zoom app and some of the things we need to set up.
So Zoom, not to be confused with the lovely video conferencing platform we all know, Zoom is basically a little option that you can enable. And when you tap your screen with 2 fingers or 3 fingers twice, it will basically zoom all of the text and whatever is on the screen in a little bit more. So if you are low vision and you have trouble seeing fine detail, that option will be useful for you. And what I haven't played with it because I don't have enough vision, but what I have noticed is you can tap twice. You can tap twice with 2 fingers to zoom in, and I think you can tap again or tap twice with 3 fingers. Bloody hell! To zoom in, and then you can tap twice with 3 fingers to zoom back out. And it's like a little toggle. And you can adjust how much it zooms and what it does. So really useful if you have low vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to have, if you have low vision, you still have some workable vision. I think Penn does have, and she's our host of Aftersight. She does have some usable vision, and we see her all the time using a magnifier with her phone. And you can turn on larger text. You can zoom in, 5 times all the way up to 15 times, which is pretty nice. I know my mother-in-law uses that sometimes as well. Follow focus and smart typing are 2 other features. So if you are cruising around the phone, it's going to magnify whatever thing you are focused on instead of the entire screen. So just be aware of that if you have your zoom turned on. All right, moving right along, display and text size. This is for, again, if you have those low vision people who do have usable vision. Evan, what do you know about the display and text size?
So that's basically where you can blow everything up, not explode it, but like you can magnify. Yeah, like you can't kaboom anything, but you can magnify the size of text, the size of icons to fit. It will cut a lot of things off if you have a small phone, but you can magnify all of it up to if you have trouble seeing small print. So that's how you'd make it larger. Again, I haven't really played with it too much, but
right. There are things on there like bold text, different button shapes, increase the contrast. So if you do have some of that workable vision, it will increase the contrast to make things a little bit sharper,
yeah,
and more. It'll give you a better visual acuity for certain apps. It'll allow you to differentiate colors. Man, I'm having a hard time with my words, people. Sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's one of those days.
Anything else? It really is, man. Anything else in the display and text?
Nope, not in the display and text. A lot of the other visual stuff would be back in the vision section.
Okay, so going back into the vision section, we're going to cover 3 of these. Let's do motion, spoken content, and audio descriptions. So which of those 3 is the most important?
Spoken content would definitely be the most important. This is anything that your phone reads. So there's actually if you go in there, there are several options. You can change your system voice. Now, this is not your voiceover voice. This is the voice that any app that uses text to speech will use. You can also have a speak text option. So whenever you can highlight some text and a little speak button will appear. So if you can't, if it's a long piece of text and you don't want to read it, you can highlight it all and tap that button and it'll read using your chosen voice. And I think there's a couple other options in that menu.
Yeah, there's a speak screen, which it's a swipe down with 2 fingers from the top of the screen, and you can hear the content of that screen. So if you're like what Evan was saying, you can highlight a particular text. However, if you're on a screen, you can swipe down with 2 fingers, and it'll read the entire screen for you, which could be helpful if you're reading like a blog post or a book or something like that, which is nice. You can change your voices. You can change the language, and you can also change the speaking rate. So if you want, super slow, you can have that. If you need like Speedy Gonzalez here on 8 cups of espresso, go for it. More power to you. There's also in there an interesting thing for pronunciation. So if you have a friend who has a name that may be hard to pronounce and Siri doesn't recognize it, you can actually add that pronunciation here so that when somebody is calling you with a different name that Siri doesn't recognize as a common name, you can have Siri learn that pronunciation in this section. So something to be aware of.
And that will affect voiceover as well. So if you don't like if let's say you don't like the way a certain voice pronounces Uber, some of them pronounce it Uber, you can correct that and it works 100% of the time.
The audio descriptions. What is the audio descriptions?
So the audio descriptions really kind of I've only seen it apply to the like Apple TV app, although sometimes it will work in other video related apps. And audio descriptions are basically It's a general thing for video description. So if you're in a video and a description is available for it, then that will be turned on, and it will describe what is happening on screen, similar to what you have on Netflix and YouTube TV and Apple TV.
All right. Anything else that you want to hit in the vision section before we move on?
No, except for a couple of things. There is an option for color inversion.
Well, then don't say no, you doofus.
Okay. I was like, yeah, wait a minute. I just said that. I was like, wait, I didn't mean no. So
what do we got?
So you also have a color inversion option. So if you can't see certain colors, or your eyes are sensitive to certain colors, or you just want your phone to be monochrome, black and white, you can do that. And there is also a new option coming with iOS 16.4 that will allow you to reduce flashing lights in videos. So if you cannot, if you have sensitivity to flashing lights, it will actually do that across the board, which is pretty cool. And there's also a reduce motion too. So if you have motion sensitivity, it will kind of reduce that for you.
Yeah, that's super important if you have if you're epileptic.
Yes.
And you have those things. I have a friend who is epileptic, and those things, I mean, even just sometimes even the changing of a light can
trigger something.
Do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into the physical and motor section, and we have quite a few things in here. This whole section could require an episode in and of itself, but we'll try to keep this brief. The first one that you come to, the first,
option
ability, I guess, or the option, would be the assisted touch.
So yeah, assistive touch, if you have motor issues, it will basically give you a way to navigate to the power menu, control your volume, activate Siri. And I think you can also slow certain commands down. So if you have, cognitive/motor issues, and you can't, and you don't have the dexterity usual, that's what that option is for.
So if I can't use my hands, I could use my nose.
You could technically. I mean, it would be a little hard, but
dude, I do it with my watch all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm not even kidding. I use my nose all the time.
Oh, I've done that.
Cool. The next one, Face ID and attention. And now this one, I'm assuming, is a fairly big one, especially for you.
Yes, it is.
Or is it?
So yeah, Face ID and attention in the accessibility settings has several features you can enable and disable. So attention aware, basically what that is the phone will look for your eyes before it unlocks the phone. And that, if you have prosthetic eyes, or if you have a nystagmus, your eyes move back and forth a lot, or if you just don't want to have to be looking directly at the phone, turn that off. And if you're using VoiceOver, when you set up Face ID, it will automatically disable that. There's also a haptics option. So if your VoiceOver is off, whenever you unlock your phone, it will play a little, it'll tap you a little vibration haptic.
Yep.
And of course, if it misrecognizes your face, it'll do the same thing. That also works in Apple Pay and whenever you use Face ID to authenticate with apps.
Yeah. Switch control. What is switch control?
Switch control is special. So what a switch is it can be anything from a large button to a joystick to a foot. I'm pretty sure they make foot switches. So yeah, if you again have motor issues, you can use those switches to control parts of your phone. So you can map those switches to go home. I think you can use them to answer calls. And so that basically allows you to use those little switches to use your phone.
Yeah, that could be really helpful, especially if you've I'm assuming that if you had somebody who was paraplegic in a wheelchair and needed some of those switching controls, that would be a really good option for them. Voice control, different language settings, vocabulary. Yeah, anything specific about that?
Yeah, voice control is another special feature. So again, if you have dexterity/motor issues, basically this is a fairly new feature. It was added a couple of years ago. You can have your phone completely controlled by your voice. So you can say go home, open Facebook, or tap new post, or you just tell it what to tap. You can have it type. things for you. You can delete and edit text. There's actually a really beautiful demo on YouTube by Apple of this feature in use. I don't personally use it because I use VoiceOver, but again, if you can talk but you have issues or difficulty using a screen or using switches for everything, this might be the feature for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that would be, and we'll link that video in our show notes, and so we can make sure that we have that on there for you. It is a really great video. I've seen it quite a few times. Moving on, you've talked about this in several episodes, the importance and use of the side button and some of its features. Tell us about why you have it set up the way you do and some of the other features it can do.
So this is a little menu where you can adjust things like the side button click speed. So the side button is the button that activates Siri, does emergency SOS, unlocks and locks your phone, and activates Apple Pay. If you have an iPhone SE or SE2, though, that's the home button. What in the side button in that menu specifically, though, yeah, you can adjust the click speed. So if you can't click it as quickly, you can make it so you'll be able to press it more slowly. You can also, in that option, I believe, adjust what holding the side button does. So if you want it to activate Siri, you can do that. If you wanted to activate the classic voice control, which is pretty old, you can do that, or you can turn it off completely.
Yep. Not a whole lot to do in there. It is an important thing that you do have when you start up your phone, just to make sure you have everything set up the way you want it. The next thing is the Apple Watch mirroring. There's really nothing much to that. It just says Apple Watch mirroring allows sharing and content of your Apple Watch screen from a paired phone. So
if you can't see your watch and you would like to be able to see your watch on your phone, you can do that, and you can control your watch from your phone, and you can control your phone from your watch too.
And then the next one down, controlling your nearby devices. After you've controlled your phone and your watch, you can control nearby devices. And when you click on that, it'll pull up a list of any device that is within range of your phone. So if you want to control your iPad, I think you can also can you control your computer too, or is it only iOS? I thought it was just iOS.
I do believe it actually will work on, I think it'll work on Mac. I haven't tried it, but it will definitely works on iOS. So, if your iPad's nearby and you just want to be able to control it that way, that's how you do it. And the device has to be on your Apple ID. You can't just control anybody's device if it's nearby.
That would cause a whole. Can you imagine going to a concert and turning that off, and then everybody, their whole device, you have control over everybody's devices? That would be so scary.
Yeah, it'd be pretty scary.
Next one. If you have an Apple TV, this might be of interest to you. It is the Apple TV remote directional buttons. Do you have Apple TV? Have you used this feature?
I do not have an Apple TV, but if you enable that, you can activate it. You can access it from your control center and control your Apple TV from your iPhone if you aren't comfortable using its remote.
Yep. And then the last two are keyboards and AirPods for physical and motor. So let's do keyboards first, and then we'll hit AirPods.
So yeah, keyboards, you can adjust a thing. I think this is not to be confused with the keyboards setting under the language and keyboard, but you can I think you can set up shortcut keys if you're using an external keyboard. I haven't been in that menu in a couple of years, so
it just says
a little rusty.
Yeah, that's fine. It says full keyboard access. You want hardware keyboards. Good grief. Use an external keyboard to control your iPhone. So if you're using, if you want a Bluetooth keyboard, you can connect it. And this works with any Bluetooth keyboard, which is fantastic. There is a new, what is the name of it? I just saw a new keyboard that came out specifically for visual impairment. It's a Braille keyboard.
There's the Orbit Writer, and that's not so new.
No, there's a new.
And that's actually been out for a couple of years.
No, this one is new within the last month and a half, maybe 2 months. And I saw it, and now I don't remember the name of it. But anyway, You can connect different keyboards to it so that you can control your phone, which is great. AirPods, we talked about that last week. Are there any other things that you want to discuss in the accessibility side of it that we didn't get to last week?
Yeah, so that is where you can go in and adjust, like if you have AirPods Pro or AirPods Max, you can adjust the button click speed. That is one of the big settings in there. So, if you can't click the button as quickly to skip and go back tracks, you can lower it. And there's also an option where if you can only hear in one ear and you still want to use that noise reduction, usually with AirPods by default, when you take one AirPod out, it will go into transparency mode so you can hear through both ears.
Right.
But you can disable that so it, regardless of what AirPod you have in, noise reduction will still be enabled.
Yeah, that could be a really useful feature. For the noise and not just that, but the cancellation as well. But absolutely. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Evan, for joining me this week. You've been listening to part 1 of our accessibility on Apple devices. Again, we're using version 16.3 and 16.4 respectively. Evan's on 16.4. And next week, we're going to be getting into more of the auditory accessibility features in Apple iOS. So don't miss next week. You're going to want to hear what we have to say and some of these updated features that we've got. And then I have a few announcements to announce for you guys. Some incredible things happening at AINC. First, I want to mention our White Cane project. And here at AINC, we believe that every Coloradan who is blind or has low vision, they need to have the tools needed to live independent lives. So this is why we're providing some free canes to those who qualify. Basically, qualifications are if you're blind or visually impaired, or you are requesting a cane on behalf of somebody who is blind or visually impaired, you qualify. If you live in Colorado, you qualify. If you haven't requested a cane from AINC in at least the last year, you also qualify. So we are accepting donations on that. So if you would like to donate to that, that would be a huge help. And then we also, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening. On May 4th, we are bringing to you Concert in the Dark with multi-Grammy-winning artist Diane Shore and other supporting musicians, Heart and Soul. This will be a benefit concert for AINC. We want to make sure that you guys are experiencing music in a completely brand new way. So we're stripping away the lights. We're stripping away the screens. We're stripping away all the stuff that makes a concert nowadays a concert. And we want to immerse you in what music is really like and hearing it in a new way, maybe even for the first time sometimes. And so Diane Shore, a friend of our show, a friend of Aftersight, and a friend of AINC is going to be there. Please come check us out. And we look forward to seeing you on May the 4th at 6 p.m. The Masterpiece Theater, downtown Denver, with help from the Rocky Mountain PBS and Kuvo Radio. So make sure you are there. We only have 150 seats, so please get your tickets soon. Make sure you take a listen to our other shows. We've got Aftersight with Penn Street, which is our flagship show. And then we have Blindsight with Bill Lundgren, and he's doing some awesome stuff. Right now we're talking about forgiveness and how it's going to affect your life. And then we have our new show, or rather rebranding of a show, Navigating Life with Vision Loss with Kim Wardlow. So be sure to check that out as we're talking about housing for the month of April. So check all those shows out. Make sure you leave a comment, like, subscribe to all of our shows, news, and articles. And we will be back next week. For Evan Starnes, AINC, my name is Jonathan Price. Have a great week.